Hey guys, Tbull here. Today we got to look at the buffed Bismarck. Celiax, that's my build on the screen there. That Fuso character increases the HE fire chance, and Von Hipper increases the secondary range. Full secondary build on this puppy. Before we jump into it though, I did want to point out, I was checking my YouTube stats earlier on my channel, and almost 40%, over 40% of my viewers actually unsubscribed. And I appreciate you guys viewing, but if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, if you're interested in the channel's content, that actually helps the channel quite a bit, promotes it to more and more viewers, and you never know. Maybe Johnny Potato, who is on your team, he's throwing games, he might run into some of these videos and then start pick up some tips, and by the time he's on your team next time, I'll turn his life around and do a little bit better. So appreciate that for anyone who's subscribed to the channel. Helps me out quite a bit. Bismarck, what's going on with the buffs? All right, well, we got, I think it was a 3% buff to the accuracy. Doesn't sound like a lot on paper, but it is noticeable. I'm still running the full secondary build, the no accuracy build with Celiax. I've tested out a couple games with Hyde, who's the Halloween commander. He's basically got access to accuracy build, which is how I got him set up. Pretty accurate. You know, the guns almost start feeling like a run-of-the-mill battleship if you're running in accuracy build. You can get that with Von Hipper if you don't have Hyde, by the way. But, you know, with Celiax, we're still not a sniper. But, you know, again, the guns are getting to be pretty serviceable here. So, noticeable increase in the accuracy. Again, don't be going into like a marksman tournament with this. Stick with the Iowa or something like that. But accuracy is improved, and AP penetration. What does that mean? AP penetration angles. Basically, it's harder for the enemy to angle. So angling is the process of protecting yourself by pointing directly at or away from the ships that are shooting at you and having your shells strike angled targets. That reduces the damage that you take, and that's basically, you know, the core concept of World of Warships. So hopefully most of you guys are familiar with angling. But the Bismarck, when you get improved AP penetration angles, like the ship just received with the buff, that means it's harder to angle. They have to turn more vertically away or towards your ship to actually achieve these different results, where you get chance to bounce or auto bounce, you know, if you're sufficiently angled. If you're broadside, you don't have a chance to bounce, those shells are going to wreck you. So basically, anytime via inspiration or just straight up buff like we saw here, a ship gets improvement on the penetration angles, it's just harder to protect yourself from that ship. So that's a massive buff as well. Underrated, just probably because a lot of people don't understand it, but it's just as important as the actually buff. So double whammy there, makes the Bismarck main gun platform much more dangerous. So then what do we have? We got basically, now we have an effective battleship with the main guns. That was always the main problem with this ship. And we have the capability to have this intense secondary pressure, this kind of passive income in terms of damage that you can get into. So that's kind of the whole philosophy behind the Bismarck in general, and the German battleships more or less to an extent. I mean, a lot of them aren't as strong with the secondaries as you might imagine them to be, but the Bismarck, for sure. We want to get as close to these guys as we can. My range, I believe, is 11.4 when the secondaries start kicking in. And if we can get in on that range, it does a number of things. It creates anxiety, it creates pressure, it creates a situation that the enemy must respond to. Because eventually, if you're just sitting there with your arms in the air and you're getting pummeled with the secondaries, sooner or later, those secondaries will kill you. It's not going to be a quick process, usually, unless you're really low on health. But it's a source of pressure, and it is effective. You know, the secondaries do work, and you don't want to unnecessarily take the damage from them, but you don't necessarily want to panic either. Especially, I'm talking mainly with battleship engagements. So, you know, basically if we're jumping in this game a little bit more, I pulled too far forward early on. We actually lost over half of our health, got a couple of heals off, got that health back, but I was basically trying to get as far forward as I possibly could. The team was just a little bit lagging in terms of their willingness to push forward. We got too far forward, and then once everyone on the enemy team starts shooting the Bismarck, you're going to have a hard time. So we backed up, disengaged, let everyone's mind kind of wander, find other attractive targets, and now we've let the play develop as well. The guys now, and I think it's a Fletcher or something behind them. Yeah, there's the Fletcher. and to a little extent the Algeria. They're attempting to push up, and that's a strong play if they can pull it off. If they can wipe out these guys on A and they're that far forward, then they're going to have crossfires in our entire team. So we want to stop that. Luckily, we're in a good position to help these guys. They're doing a great job over there stopping the push anyways, but we're going to try and chime in with our guns. Had some HE loaded just in case the Fletcher popped around, because we're going to try and take out those destroyers. But we got the shot off on the guys now, and he goes down. And now here's kind of what we're talking about. I'm still mainly attacking the Fletcher, and you can see on the map there, it's looking pretty likely that he might play through that gap. So I'm going towards the Fletcher, but as kind of a secondary benefit, I'm going to push into the Massachusetts that's kind of hugging that island. Now, we might get some damage with the guns. We might get some pressure. We might cause some anxiety. But we're going to force him to kind of have to think about the situation, you know. So that's going to basically cause him to back up behind that island, remove his guns from the ability to take these shots at our teammates around here and take them out of the fight. So that's kind of what we're talking about. We want to be moving into situations where these secondaries are just passively putting pressure on them. I like to think of boxing analogies a lot of time, and this is how, you know, like a heavyweight fighter would be kind of leaning on their opponent, wearing them down, forcing them to kind of support the weight of the guy that's leaning into them, sapping their strength and just kind of draining their stamina. So that's kind of how I like to view the Bismarck in particular, and any of these ships that have a good, strong secondary attack. You just kind of get close enough to these guys to cause problems, rely on your armor, and you can see the armor, we're still pointed directly at the Massachusetts, eliminating any attractive shots from the main guns from him. But now that he's pulled forward here, we're getting shots on the Fletcher with the secondaries, we're getting shots on the Fletcher with the main guns, and we're getting secondary shots on the Massachusetts. So looking like our team's got a pretty good job. You know, they're good, a good situation with that Fletcher going there. So we're going to turn our attention here, get all these secondaries going on this guy, and start pressuring him even more. We had HE loaded again, so we whacked him there, got the fire going, and that's going to either force him to use the damage con or just kind of start to wither some of that damage down. Get another fire going there with the secondaries, and that's going to be putting a lot of pressure on this guy. You know, he's going to be forced to use the damage con there, and any more fires that come through, which there we got one there, that's long-term kind of permanent damage that he can't really deal with. And this is what we're talking about here. We're dealing damage with the main guns. We're trying to aim up there with the superstructure, hit his main guns or the superstructure. Don't want to hit the hull when he's pointing at us like that, because we're not going to get any damage. But if we're scoring damage with the main guns and the secondaries and we're burning them, we're forcing his damage count around here, that's a withering attack. Now, he's a Massachusetts. He's got the same ability to do it to us, but we're the Bismarck. We're the kings of the secondary close-range brawls. All right, so as long as these ships don't have torpedoes, well, we really don't have any reason to not get really close to these things, you know. All you got to do is make sure they can't get you with the ram. All right, but other than that, you want to be as close as possible. I got mine set up for reload, turret traverse, secondaries. You know, we're going to be doing maximum amount of pressure, maximum amount of damage. Now here, this is an example of me being greedy, at least temporarily, just poor decision making. You can see I'm basically on the base, and I'm like, well, I'm a slow battleship. I want to be dealing damage. I got crossfire shots. Maybe some of my teammates, and I'm looking back here like, which of these guys is going to come over? Come on, Tbull. This is ridiculous. Those guys are 5 minutes away. They can't even get here by the end of the game. Go into the base, you know, and normally I would always do this by default, but basically those guys are at the end of my range, which is why I'm nervous. Because what you want to do, you get on the base, stop the accrual of points, begin capturing the base for yourself, and usually you still got shots. You know, at these guys, if long as they're in your main firing range circle, get on their base, capture the base, and deal the damage. All right, so sloppy play there. Took me about 10 seconds to realize, all right, let's not be the potato that drives us insane. Let's play the game properly. So we get in here, and now we're going to be in a position to capture the base and continue to move to the east and hopefully get some crossfire shots. So again, chasing the damage, chasing the style points, not capturing the base, sloppy play, and it can get you some losses. You might be thinking, well, you're up on ships, but they kill the cruiser. Now they got a destroyer running amok, and you never know. We might have a couple battleships that are low health. We don't have a lot of health over here, but the situation can turn rapidly. So by playing smart, getting the base, now we're going to have 3 points generating, 3 sources of income generating points. They're only going to have 1. The score is going to get out of control. Then we can't lose. Then we can start playing fast and loose. And you can see there, we're only up a couple ships at this point in time, and they still got the destroyer advantage. So much better thinking to get on this cap. Unfortunately, we should have captured it about 10 seconds ago, but a little bit sloppy thinking. Anyways, I'm thinking, all right, where's the destroyer? We know he's a destroyer, and we know he's probably going to be fixated on torping battleships. So I'm going to pop the sonar here just to make sure we're not the battleship that he's torping. And then you can see we're in range of the Vlad. Whew, took a little bit of a wicked shot there from him, even at that angle. That's the chance to bounce angle at about 45 degrees. So we could have tightened up the angle a little bit and probably withstood all that damage. But we returned fire there, and that's probably the best example. I mean, Celiacs of old could have hit that shot from time to time. We haven't seen any like laser beams with this build, but if you've been keeping an eye on the main gun performance, you could probably tell they look pretty good, especially compared to what we've historically seen out of the Bismarck. So I think the main gun accuracy is there for the secondary build. If you want to go full-on accuracy build, I can respect that, especially if you got hide and you got access to those heals. But I'm digging this, and this is as full-on secondary as you can possibly get, and no accuracy boost. And we've been hitting the shots we need to hit here. So I'm thinking the Bismarck's pretty good. But again, I want to hear you guys in the comments. What do you think? Is the Bismarck where you want it to be, or do you want it tweaked more? I think if it gets another buff, personally, I think it's going to start to become, a lock for one of the best ships in the game. And I don't know if that's going to be a good thing to have a bunch of secondary monsters running around, but we'll see. Again, I think next update we should probably expect to see something along those lines. Anyway, here we got about just shy of 150k. You can see a lot of that was due to the fires. We got 10 fires, and pretty good results with the main guns as well. So that's a look at the new and improved Bismarck for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing. We got lots of World of Warships coming all the time. Questions, comments, leave below. I'd love to hear from you guys, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.